Hello, everyone. Welcome to Michelle's Inspiration Hour. Thank you so much for coming each time. And again, I hope that every episode will inspire you and motivate you something in your life to make it more enriched. Because as I always say, everybody has an inspirational story. And I would love to hear what your story is, or you need to tell others your story because everybody has one. Okay, so I'm going to go ahead and talk about our next guest. I am so excited about her. She has so much energy, and a lot of that thing in her bio, I'm going to kind of read. She did such a great job writing about herself. So I'm going to go ahead and state everything that was in there because to me, that really makes up who she is. All right, so I love this. Precision meets charisma describes our next guest, Brigitta. She is also, and first and foremost, she says, I am German by birth, an educator at heart, an action taker by default, a coach and trainer by purpose, a life coach, a life lover by design, and a caring boss, lady by passion. As a powerfully engaged and professional international speaker, Brigitta is also known as the fast track female trainer and retired lead coach of one of the largest self development companies in the world. Her TED Talk, Listen to Relate, Not to Respond, premiered on 2/17/2013 on YouTube. Be prepared to learn from Brigitta, to sit back, take notes because you will need it and let's have some fun. And I know that she always has fun with whatever she does. All right, so let me bring on our guest. Hello, my
Oh
dear.
my goodness. Thank you for having me, Michelle. And you're right. If it's not fun, I'm not doing it. Period.
It should be that way. You should enjoy it because I think, if you're having fun with what you are doing, it will actually make people go, you know what? She has a fabulous life. And it just kind of like you plant the seed for others to do the same thing.
I tell my clients, look, if you're not having fun what you're doing, how the heck do you expect that someone wants to work with you?
Oh, and that's very true.
Right?
Yes,
I
yes.
I want to work with people that are excited to get up in the morning and do the work that they get to do and make the impact that they make, no matter what it is. And if it's, selling pretzels, then it's selling pretzels. That's cool. I love pretzels.
And I totally agree with you because I've worked with so many people, so many supervisors who are tired. They love their job, but they get really tired. And it kind of takes out the fun out of what they
Mhm.
are doing, and they're not as effective whenever
Yeah.
they're trying to um, create a program for you and try to tell you, try to shape you as an employee as well. So they're not really able to do a good job.
Yeah.
So, what I would really love to hear is why the United States? I love Montessori schools, but and coming from Germany, I've never been there, but I've heard it's absolutely beautiful. But what made you get inspired to say, you know what, I need this Montessori school in the United States?
That's a great question. And you're right. Germany is beautiful. And if you know anything and you need to come, we're going to do a cultural mastermind actually this winter in
Oh
Germany. So
wow.
come and join us. We're going to show you all the ins and outs of Munich, where we lived for a very long time, where our oldest daughter was born, and she actually moved back there. Um, why the United States? Well, when my husband and I met, we both studied abroad before in the United States. So he was an exchange student, I was an exchange student. And at one point we said, you know what? We're young. Our kids are not, they're babies. Well, one of them was a baby, the other one wasn't even planned yet. If we don't go and do something abroad now, we're probably not going to do it. Eventually, our social roots are going to be so deep that would be hard to take our kids out of school, move somewhere else, and start all over again. And one thing that you need to know about Germany and German business culture and real estate, commercial real estate is very, very hard to get. And it is very, Munich, Stuttgart, and Hamburg are the most expensive real estate cities. So in order to get any sort of school building, or that would function as a school building, it would be millions and millions and millions and millions and millions of euros. And we were actually looking at, several buildings that we could make into a school building. And we finally said, you know what? Before we continue to try to, put a cylinder in a square opening, let's move. Let's pack our bags and let's move. Well, that's the easy version, Michelle. It
Oh,
wasn't
right.
all
No, I understand. I
okay.
understand completely. Yes.
But we did that, and we built the school. We moved to a small town in Tennessee from Midtown Munich. That was that
Mm.
was some culture shock right there.
Right.
Um, and we stayed there for 13 years, built the school to from 3 students to 125 students, which we have today. I'm out of the day-to-day operations, but we're just looking at, buying a bigger building to grow the school even more. So why Montessori? I didn't go to a
Mm.
Montessori school. I felt like that cylinder that they tried to put into this square opening, and they were pounding on me. And I didn't want that for my kids.
Oh, got you. Mhm.
At a very young age, I decided I'm going to be a do-gooder, whatever that looks like. I didn't know what that looked like back then, but it needs to start with our children, and I have a big, big calling and big heart for children and parents.
Oh my gosh, I absolutely love that. I absolutely love that. Thank you so much. And it's so interesting because, like you said, you're always an educator at heart.
Yeah.
And I did see the statement that when you opened the school up, and it sounds like you had a great business mind, and you still do. I'm not saying that you don't anymore, but you still do. But you stated that you weren't able to spend time with your own kids. You developed the school for them, and then can you kind of take us through that?
Yeah, that was hard. Looking
Yeah.
back, and I'm actually going through that story a little bit in my TED Talk, and my husband didn't go. The TED Talk was in Germany, in Frankfurt, and I was talking to a sold out crowd of 400 people. And when my husband, for the first time, listened to my TED Talk, because he wasn't there with me, he cried. And I built the school for my children. I wanted my children to have a different take on schooling and life, and not being uh, being put in a box with everyone else, because that's not how our children are supposed to grow up. Um, but me building the business, me building the school, it wasn't small town in Tennessee. There are not just Montessori teachers on every corner. I actually had to, find great teachers within the community and then teach them the Montessori method and pay for their diploma, because Montessori has a 3-year diploma that you get to additionally take in order to be a Montessori teacher. And I invested in them heavily. And I did that over and over again. And by investing my time in the business, that was time that I didn't have with my children. And, looking back now, they're 20 and 17. I'm never going to get that time back.
Right. But you know what? When I think and I hear that story, even though you feel like you didn't really spend much time with them, you were a great role model. That you said, you know what? You can get out there, you can make changes, you can make a difference in the world, you can create whatever you feel like you want to create. So, the people out there, okay, the listeners, if they want to start something like a dream of theirs, like opening up a Montessori school, how do they go about? Because, you know, a lot of people don't know how to start it. They think, okay, that's going to be my goal, but how do I get to that goal? So, what would you tell them?
Well, first of all, you've heard the saying many times before: you eat the elephant one bite at a time. I had a very clear goal to build the Montessori school. Um, but I also realized that I got to take one step at a time, because if I tried to go in the deep end, there would have been no swimming. I would have just
Mm.
completely drowned. So I did a business plan. That I did that while we still lived in Germany. Then I focused on the move. We moved with our entire household. We put it in one of these, big moving boxes, big moving containers,
Mhm.
that was then shipped to Savannah from Hamburg. So it was picked up with a truck and then shipped to Hamburg, and then from Hamburg it was shipped to Savannah and then picked up by a truck and then brought to us to Tennessee. So we did that first. Now, all of that, Michelle, we did that on our own time and dime. We didn't have a company that said,
Right.
hey, the Hoeferles sound like a great couple. Why don't we pay them to come to the United States? We did all of that out of our own pocket. My father-in-law, I think to this day, and we've lived in the States now for almost 20 years, still thinks I'm a little cuckoo, because, he's like, why do you want to move to the United States? And we
Right.
didn't know, my husband and I didn't know, do we want to stay there?
Mhm.
Is this just for a few years? Um, but now we are at a point where we're like, we got roots in Germany. We continue to go back. So we're kind of citizens of both.
Right. Right.
Our oldest moved back to Munich.
Oh, really? So, yeah, now you have to go up there to
Oh,
visit.
for sure. I
Yeah,
mean,
well,
bent my arm.
yeah, yeah, well, and that's a part of you as well. You know what I'm saying? So good. I mean, much kudos to you because it would be so difficult to learn a new culture and then build what you did build for your kids. So that is such an inspiration. So after the school, then what did you decide? I mean, you were such a wonderful speaker, but how did you get into the coaching?
Yeah, great question. So I built the school one step at a time. I started building relationships with all of the departments, the Department of Health, the Fire Marshal, the Department of Education. I drove up to Nashville because I didn't know what it would take to build the school. And through building the school and then being very involved in our community, I was serving on the board of the Chamber of Commerce for education. All of that started building relationships, and we quickly grew the school. That we had to find a new school building, and I had parents come up to me and they said, Brigitte, I need to talk to you. It appears that you have a different version of our child in school than we have at home.
Mm.
Why? And how? And what? And how
Yeah,
do we change that? So, if you know anything about Montessori schools, and I know, Michelle, you do, but the listeners,
yeah.
it is a very structured, but also a very free within that structure environment. And when we as humans, no matter which age, get to do what we truly desire to do, we do it with more ease and more fun.
Mhm.
And that's how I got started coaching parents. And I thought, this is really interesting. And what through my coaching parents, and then being with the International Coaching Federation, becoming a certified coach through them, I got and I went continue to go into self-development courses and continue to just learn and pour into myself, because if I'm teaching learn do teach, I want to apply that on me first, right?
Oh, right. Right.
And that's how I got fast tracked to be the female trainer, female coach, first female trainer for the largest self development company in the world. All of that came not because I was looking for it, it just came because I was there. I applied it. I ate my own cooking, if you will, and I made a difference. And you're right, Michelle. It has left a huge mark on my children in a really good way.
Mhm. Right. Absolutely. Absolutely. And, and because, as things change and going to your website, I can tell. I mean, you're out there speaking in front of everybody, you're coaching, you're telling everybody, and you just have that energy that people just go, oh, okay, I'll do what you want me to do because you're so good at leading and having that passion. And so I can't imagine your kids not going, oh my gosh, mom is totally awesome. I want to be just like her, be passionate and find something. And like you said, the Montessori way. So
Yeah.
whenever you're coaching, now, do you actually teach people how to speak, or what do you do? What is your coaching all about?
Yeah. So my one-on-one coaching with my clients is business coaching. So usually people come to me and they're not getting the results in business. May they be a C-level executive or an entrepreneur, or I have people that are coming to me because their relationship with their partner is not working. And I like to say all business problems are personal problems and all personal problems are business problems, because we're a holistic being. We cannot just shut off, what we are dealing with. Like, one of my clients is a OBGYN, and he's had mothers and babies die under his care. And I say, how do you turn that off and not take that home? And he says, well, I can't. That does have an effect on me. You start, as a doctor, you learn to cope with it, but it has an effect on you because there's not a wall of, here business, here personal.
Right.
So I I I coach individuals. I train organizational teams, sales teams, customer care teams, collection teams, things like that. I certify coaches. I work with the International Coaching Federation. I certify coaches. I certify and teach speakers. So if someone says, Brigitta, I want to do what you do, sure. And I and I
Yes,
and
that's
I have a
awesome.
program for that.
Right. Yeah, you're going, okay, I will definitely teach you, coach you how to along the way. And I'm just thinking to myself, I'm thinking, a lot of educators have that speaking ability, because that's what you do all day is you're
Right.
teaching and you're coaching. And so when you were younger, could you imagine what you're doing now?
It's funny that you asked that, Michelle, because I remember being 17 years old. Our youngest is 17, and we just toured a really cool college, which is, I would say, is a Montessori college. If I've ever seen one, they don't call themselves that, but it's very hands-on.
Right.
And she asked me the same question that I asked my mother when I was 17. What I am studying right now, is that what I have to do for the rest of my life? And my mother said, "Oh, honey, no, you're never going just to do one thing."
Oh,
she,
that's wonderful.
she already knew.
Yeah.
Yeah, I learned to be a teacher. That was my first degree, education science and social pedagogy, but I didn't do anything with it for the longest time.
Right. Right. Well, you know what? You did one thing after the other. Now, the one thing I need to kind of switch gears just a little bit from business about your speaking on listening skills,
Yes.
because I think what you were doing, now this is kind of taken apart from it and making it really, really deep, is you were really listening to yourself on knowing what you were really needing to do. So that was a good listener for yourself. But I know that your TED Talk really talks about being a good listener for other people as well, because we
Yeah.
tend to forget that. Because like with podcasts, when you're a host, what we do is we listen, but at the same time, we're kind of thinking up question, what do I need to ask her next? So that's not really a good listener, but we do tend to do that even in spontaneous conversations.
I think the really good podcasters like you, Michelle, do that because you're bringing up the next question out of something that was said before. So that does make you a good listener. And I love what you said about, I think first and foremost, how are you a good listener to yourself? Are you really doing the things that make you joyful, that fulfill you? Or are you
Right.
just doing something that someone suggested at some point is a good idea for you to do?
Absolutely. Absolutely. And I think a lot of people that I bring on the show, a lot of times they go, you know what? I was listening to everybody else. I'm a people pleaser. I wanted to
Mhm.
do, I wanted to carry on because I want to appease everybody. I want my parents proud of me.
Yeah.
And I love it that you're going, because
No.
that doesn't make it fun, because you're not listening to yourself and you're not being your authentic self.
And what I'm saying, Michelle, is not to disrespect your
Oh,
parents,
right.
right?
Right.
Or anyone else, but to see, how in alignment is that with what you desire, with, what's your God-given purpose, talent that you have. And it
Right.
might be completely different from the one that your parents have in store for you.
Absolutely. And I love that.
I teach high intention, low attachment. So have being very intentional in what you do, but then not being attached. Is it really going to go the way it goes? Right? So
Right.
high listening skills, low attachment to what the outcome is going to be, which you should have an outcome. I'll give you a really good example. We and I said before, it sounded simple, us crossing cultures and moving from Germany with a toddler who was 18 months old at the time, from Midtown Munich to a small town in Tennessee. And I have sponsored my husband to get his green card. So I already had all of my paper in place. Now I needed to take the next step, because it needs to be one step at a time. Sponsor my husband to get his green card. So I went to the embassy, to the US Embassy in Munich, and I just kind of walked in with my confident little self that I am, right? And I said, "Hey guys, I mean, we have been waiting now for quite some time, like months and months and months. What's going on with the papers?" And they didn't like my confident questioning.
Okay.
And eventually they had it, and they escorted me out of the embassy. And when they escorted me out of the embassy, they kept my papers. So I couldn't go anywhere. And I remember
Mhm.
breaking down outside, and I called my husband. It was 2003, from a phone booth, and I cried and I said, "They just took all my papers, and I don't know. I don't know what's
Mhm.
going to happen. I don't know where your papers are. My papers are gone. I don't know what's going to happen." And I was devastated. But that didn't take long, and I went home and we talked, and he says, "So is that a sign that we're not going?" And I said, "No, that's not the sign.
Mhm.
um, this is just an obstacle, and we're just going to continue." And a few weeks later, I got my papers again in the mail via FedEx, and shortly after that, we got my husband's papers as well. But I think it's, often we get, um, there's a trial. How bad do we want it? And I'm just staying consistent, one step at a time.
I love that, because a lot of people would have said, okay, that's a sign, I quit, just like what your husband was saying.
Yeah.
We're going to stay here. We're not going to continue with our dreams. They think it's going to be very, very easy. So, if you were going to tell anybody any type of inspiration, and I know you have a lot of good inspirational statements that you would tell somebody, what would you tell them? Just any type of your favorite inspiration.
Mm. I think right now what comes up for me is, stay present, and and I don't mean this disrespectful, but shut up.
Yeah.
Like, keep your mouth closed
Yeah.
and perk your ears, and start listening to where people, not just their words, but where are they coming from? Because often, I think even specifically nowadays, Michelle, we have so many people that come from different mindsets, and everyone thinks that they are right.
Right.
And we're
Right.
all right in our own
Hmm.
unique ways. But if we're all only pounding on, "No, but you got to listen to me because I am right," that's not how we're going to form unity. That's not how we're going to really, get out of the whatever misery we're in. We need to lock arms. And that starts with having an open mind and having an open ear and having a little bit less chatter.
I love it. I love it. Well, Brigitte, are you ready for your last question?
Oh boy, am I ready.
And she knows what that means. It means the wheel's going to come up. All
I
right,
love
so
it.
let me go ahead and spin it and see what your last question's going to be.
Okay.
Like we're all going to win something.
Yay. I think
Oh,
we already
okay.
won.
Okay, there you go. So, if you think about yourself, who do you feel, and this could be anybody, who do you feel is that you are most like?
Who am I most like? Well, I'm gonna I'm gonna tell you guys I'm most like my dad, and my dad passed away 10 years, almost to the day. He's been gone for 10 years. And he was a very charismatic, fun guy, and he got really ill, and it was better that his time was up.
Right.
But he
Right.
was. I'm most like my dad, and people that knew my dad, and when they see me smile and they see me
Yeah.
laugh, they say, "You look like your dad," and that's a real compliment to me.
And I can see the sparkle in your eye when you say that too. And I
Yeah.
know that the listeners can't see you smile, but I mean, it's just the smile and just, when you're talking about your dad. So, where can everybody find you?
Really easy. Either you Google my first last name, Brigitta Hoeferle. There's only one Brigitta Hoeferle out there. Or you can also go to brigittahoeferle.com, go to YouTube and type in the search Brigitta Hoeferle TEDx. You can watch my TEDx on listening, listen to relate, not to respond. Definitely do that because
Yes,
I'm biased, but
I love
it
it.
is a great TEDx talk.
I loved it. I watched it. I think I watched it 2 or 3 times because you give so much information that I wanted to re-listen to it and make sure I had all the good points and everything. And so yeah, so definitely listen to that on YouTube. All right, Brigitta, thank you so much for coming. I appreciate it so much. And I know everybody loved to hear the Texas accent versus the German accent.
Thank you, Michelle, for having me. I really, really appreciate it.
Well, thank you, my dear. Thank you.